From the Voice of Retail podcast, my name is Michael LeBlanc, and I am your host. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. This episode is a pickup of an excellent feature interview live in person from Hollywood earlier this year for my Global eCommerce Leaders podcast. Enjoy. Greetings and welcome to a special episode recorded live in the on-site Stream Commerce podcasting studio at the Los Angeles Global eCommerce Leaders Forum in early 2023. These episodes are presented by Stream Commerce, a full-service Shopify Plus e-commerce agency delivering world-class Shopify Plus digital storefronts and growth marketing solutions. Stream Commerce can help you navigate the new markets, Markets Pro, and Global E International, capabilities native to Shopify, and work hand-in-hand to help you drive profitable global sales. And if you have questions about whether or not your international Klaviyo email marketing and paid performance marketing with Meta and Google is working as hard as you are, call the experts at Stream Commerce. They can help you maximize your return. The Global E-commerce Leaders Forum LA 2023 offered retail professionals strategic insights and actionable takeaways about how industry leaders are tackling their top global DTC and cross-border e-commerce challenges and how they are successfully making a case for investing in retail growth. On this episode, John Safran, Chief Executive Officer, KEH Camera, a leading re-commerce company and the world's largest pre-owned camera dealer. They have a constantly replenished inventory of over 65,000 items in stock and have had a stellar customer service reputation since 1979. Let's listen in now. John, welcome to the Global E-commerce Leaders podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it was so great. You and I had a chance to meet over dinner last night, and we're chit-chatting about your business, which is super interesting to me. I've always loved... I tell you this story. I didn't tell it to you last night. When I was at one of my jobs at Shopping Channel, it was run by a large communications conglomerate called Rogers in Canada, right?
Of course. It's
like AT&T if you're an American listener, same thing.
I know Rogers.
And so they had no clue what we did for a living, right? We were a little retail division that happened to broadcast on TV, so that's where it came together. So we'd get a new president on a regular basis, and he'd call me up and say, well, how do I understand your business? Do I come and sit in the studio and watch? I said, forget about it. Come and sit in the returns area for a day, and you will understand everything you need to know about our business in one day. And lo and behold, they're minds blown. I'm saying this: if you do this well, it's part of the business.
Sure.
And if you do it well, you succeed. If you don't do it well, you do not succeed.
A lot of leakage through returns.
There's a lot of leakage through returns. Anyway, we've jumped right in. Why don't we start back at the beginning? Tell me about who you are and what you do for a living.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, my name is John Safran. I'm the CEO and president of KEH Camera. I've been running KEH for about 5 years now. Mm-hmm. KEH is the oldest and largest re-commerce player for cameras and photographic equipment in North America.
And so for those not familiar with the term re-commerce, unpack that for us a little bit.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I always like to start by saying, we've been doing re-commerce before re-commerce was cool. I presume most people listening have either bought or sold secondhand goods. And, inherently, that's a very local proposition historically. So you're either, in the camera world, you'd go down to your local camera store and you would trade in your old stuff and buy something new, or you would sell it to a friend on Craigslist or something like that.
Yeah.
Re-commerce came along as an evolution to specifically solve some problems and advance the state of the secondhand market. So first of which was we leveraged the internet to be able to broaden the reach. So we can buy and sell gear from anywhere in the world over the internet. The other thing that we can do is, when you think about buying a technical product like a camera from someone else that you don't know, there's not a lot of transparency. There's not a lot of, assurance. And so there's often, it's like
there's
the used
risk.
car
There's
problem.
a fair bit of risk.
Huge risk. And so there's a big discount because you just don't know what happened to the gear before you bought it.
Right.
So we sit in the middle as a trusted middleman that authenticates the product, and we guarantee that it's fit for use as intended. So by both leveraging the internet to expand the demographic reach or geographic reach to buy and sell products, as well as offering transparency and integrity into the process, now we can actually help the circular economy grow well beyond small local pockets.
So many questions I have for you, but let's start at one I didn't ask. Why'd you get into retail? Did you always want to be in retail? Sometimes it's been described as the accidental career. What was it for you?
So, yeah, totally accidental career. I actually started out working at both Intel and Dell. And for me, I was always a technology guy. And so the common thread that you'll see kind of throughout my career is I just get fascinated by, technology that changes people's lives. And so, after working at Dell, I went and worked at a company called Cooper Industries, which, while it's more of an industrial electrical conglomerate, I was part of the team that really helped transform lighting industry from old incandescent fluorescent to now digital devices with LED and controls. After that, I worked at Stanley Black & Decker, but again, it's an industrial software automation business. And so, I just, was always been attracted to kind of different type of technology businesses across many different industries. Love working on, solving customer issues. And throughout my life, I've also been a avid amateur photographer. So this was just a good fit.
That's a nice intersection of the personal and the professional. But
absolutely,
the leap between being a technologist, if we can call you that, and an operator is not a leap everybody can make. Is it always something you wanted to do, or is it a natural progression?
No, absolutely. I mean, ever since I was younger, for starting a business, I wanted to be able to run businesses.
Okay, so that was always a point of arrival for you. That was where you were going.
Absolutely. And so when I was with some of the larger companies like Dell, there's really no way to run a P&L because it's so decentralized. And so eventually I moved on to companies where I can run different P&Ls for them until ultimately now, of course, I run KEH.
Yeah, very neat. And you called it Stanley Black & Decker. I worked for Black & Decker for 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Were you at Black & Decker or Stanley, or were you there when it was Stanley Black & Decker?
I was there for Stanley Black & Decker.
Oh, okay.
And I can date myself, too, because I actually really started my career at Price Waterhouse. Oh. So that really, because that's the pre-Coopers.
Yes.
So that dates myself, too.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, let's talk about the ins and outs of the business. So you've talked about re-commerce, talked about circular. Now, historically, if we can say that, it was a B2B business, right? There was a business that would buy and refurb product and then sell it through a B channel or a traditional channel. That's changed dramatically now. So do you have both a consumer-facing front where people can buy it and a B2B business? To unpack the structure of the business a little bit.
So we're actually primarily customer now.
Oh, okay.
So we will buy... most of our stuff that we buy is on the internet. People will go to KEH.com, get a quote from us. If they like the quote, we'll send them a shipping label. They'll mail it in. And then
now, is that based on? I'm kind of jumping in here, but before I forget the thought, is that based on some kind of assessment? I mean, does the camera even work? Is there even guts inside the camera? And there must be a process and a protocol.
Yeah, there's a process, and so we'll ask them, what they think the condition is. Of course, we'll send them the shipping label based on what they're telling us about the condition of the gear, and then they'll send it in, and we'll validate it. And so
I see. Okay,
that's really for us the heart of what we do is that technical inspection. That's what allows for the transparency and integrity, and it's like, if you think of a clothing retail or a high-end luxury bag, they're doing authentication. So if you say, I want to go buy a...
Canada Goose jacket, it's got to have a hologram on it, it's got to have whatever.
Absolutely.
Right?
So they're going to authenticate that. And so what we do is a step beyond that, because we're not just authenticating that it's it's an Icon or Leica or whatever. We're actually saying it's going to work as intended, and we're putting our name behind that. And we have our own repair team to back us up. So we're able to offer a free 180-day warranty, and then we can also even sell an extended warranty because we know we can fix everything we sell.
A question for you, which I may or may not put on the podcast, depending on your answer, is there's some work going around for the marketplaces around organized retail crime, resellers. So there's some laws in front of Congress about knowing your customer. I mean, do you guys worry, or do you have process in place that this could be stolen goods or goods from the benefits of crime? How do you figure that
we
out?
Absolutely, I would support that. We hate, people will bring stolen stuff to us, and we try to help catch them. There's a number of folks that we actually have, worked with law enforcement to collect, to catch. it's a drag for us because, if we end up buying it, we're out money. So we don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's better if...
You're already farther ahead in terms of what the legislation intends, which is a kind of a know my client, know my customer, and have a registered person.
I think the thing for us, as we're doing a massive technology upgrade right now, we would like to be able to import into it, serial numbers of all stolen goods. People report to us, and that way we can instantly know if one of them is in front of us, and then just, offer to... we can come pick it up. We can come pick that up. Yes. Some of our friends will come pick that up right at your front door. What's your address again? Exactly. So no, because we want no part in it.
Okay.
But yeah, going back to the business. So most of what we do, I said, coming in, we'll buy stuff online. We also do personal events where we go around, Canada and the U.S. Where we're actually going to do, events with camera stores, local camera stores, and partner with them. And then we also have a phone team, and we do virtual buying as well.
So interesting. Now you touched on something. Where are you based out of?
We're based in Atlanta.
Based in Atlanta, and where do you operate in? I mean, we're here at a global conference, so obviously you're thinking globally, but you just mentioned Canada, and I know from our conversation last night you have some other connections to Canada as well. But where do you operate, and where do you buy from? You said around the world at the beginning.
Yeah, we do.
Literally, right?
We do buy around the world. We talk about literally going to the ends of the world to find the best gear for our customers. When we're purchasing, primarily it's the U.S., it's Canada, Europe, specifically Germany, and then Japan.
Oh, interesting. I guess, yeah, right. That would be where
they're big camera centers.
The big camera centers. Now, what brought you to this conference? Like, you were on the stage. What kind of knowledge were you dropping? What were you chitting and chatting about while you're here?
One of the things we were talking about was just the evolution of the secondhand market into e-commerce, and I was partnered with a gentleman, Matthias from Ethos, which is an NFT company. And what we found is we're talking about innovations in e-commerce.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And the common thread between both of our businesses, we're kind of in Wild West type of businesses where you get a lot of people selling secondhand goods. They're not always what they are purported to be.
Sure.
Same with him. I mean, obviously in the NFT world, there's a lot of issues going on.
Shenanigans.
Let's
call it that.
And so for both of us, the integrity and authenticity and really authentication process is critical to what's differentiating us from a lot of the other things going on in the market.
So interesting. And do you do a wholesale business as well? Do you do this, what would we call that, a white label business? Is
a
that
little
part
bit,
of the model?
yeah, we do. What we'll do
But you're primarily consumer, but a little bit of white label stuff.
And so when we're selling product, most of what we sell is to individual consumers, and we sell it primarily off our website, although we did... we did buck the trend, and we did open up a retail store in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, very good.
And it's actually quite successful, and we're really proud about that, and looking to expand on that.
Oh, interesting. Well, let's talk about some advice to the listeners. Last couple of questions,
sure.
And I frame it in 2 starts and 1 stop. So, with your experience in commerce and global, I mean, you've got a very sophisticated take on global. What are 2 things folks listening should start doing, and 1 thing they should, maybe it's not working anymore?
Sure. So, and maybe one of them is a little bit more, it's more, I guess, vague. I don't know if it's vague. Vague's the right word. But what I would say is, we live in a world where so many people have so many different thoughts and opinions on stuff. Everyone's got an opinion on everything in the world we live in. And so what I always tell my team is, look, enough talk, get off the couch, let's go do something. We have to be relentlessly focused on trying new things. We call it, test, learn, and adapt. Be willing to fearlessly try something new every day. Be intellectually honest enough to learn, did it work, did it not? Were you lucky? Was it poor execution? Was it bad strategy?
Sure.
But whatever the reason, it may or may not have worked, really understand it and then adapt and move on. Because if you're not pushing yourself to really try new things, you're falling behind.
Do you think, kind of a question off the side, but important, do you think the COVID era taught us more about being agile because we just can't predict the future than being regimented and planned out to the last? Do you think that's one of the lasting impacts on business in some ways for the positive? I mean, really the whole concept of minimal viable product migrated its way over from the technology space, right? Because I don't know what it was like at the beginning of your career. My career, you had to have every T crossed and every I dotted before you launched a project.
Absolutely.
Like you had to have it perfect, right? And there's a lot.
A to Z.
A to Z, it took you 18 months, but that's fine, or whatever. Is that a philosophy that has changed? I've seen it change. Has it changed because of COVID generally in the community? Has it changed from your organization?
I think, for us, we have 5 very, very strong values. This is always from, the moment I got there, part of who we are. But we were definitely able to accelerate it during COVID. Teams that had been more change resistant suddenly had nowhere to hide.
Right.
And so they really had to embrace it. They had to, we call it going into the dark room. So all of our values are in photography-centric values. And so you go into the dark room, you try things, you be creative, fearlessly creative.
Maybe you're overexposed. Maybe,
and it's okay to make mistakes, but you're not going to get anywhere if you don't try.
My partner Steve Dennis often talks about, particularly today, that there's more risk in doing nothing than there is in trying.
If you're doing nothing, you are falling behind.
Yeah,
there is no doubt about that.
So is that your stop? Is stop? Stop waiting for it to be perfect, or what is? How would you phrase that?
I think that this stop would be a little different because I think for me, what I see is a lot of for the stop is thinking everything, right? It's a lot of people believe that they have all the answers and they don't. It's impossible to. I mean, one of the things I always tell my team, if I thought I knew everything, then I'm an idiot, right? Because I have to be focused on learning and listening and trying to push us all to be better every day. And because if you're not, then you are again, you're trying to recreate the wheel, and you don't need to. For us going global, we struggle, when we're selling global because we don't have, the residential knowledge to understand the custom taxes, duties, currency translation, all this for all the different countries. But there's partners we have that we can work with that solve all that for us. So we have to find the right partner. And then work with them, and that'll help you accelerate the business. So stop trying to go it alone. Find good partners, work with really good people, and you'll advance a lot faster than you would otherwise. How
do folks get in touch with you? Are you a LinkedIn guy? And drop some URLs and some social media for the business?
I'm on LinkedIn, but it's funny. I'm kind of old school too. The easiest way is email. If you want to reach me, it's just the letter J for my first name, Safran. My last name at KEH.com. And that's the easiest, quickest way to get to me.
Beautiful.
But I'm on LinkedIn as well. And
your URL for the company, where if people are looking about, and I've been thinking, I almost didn't sleep last night. I'm like, it's a new world for me. I need some new equipment. I got to check you guys out. Where do you go?
It's KEH.com. And I'll tell you, it's very simple. What I always say is that we live in a image-centric society. More people are taking more pictures than any time in human history. A lot of them sure are with the smartphone, but I love it. I don't think the smartphone's killing photography at all. In fact,
I think it just the opposite. I agree with you. Just the opposite. Got everybody taking pictures now, and now they start thinking. And now film is making. Am I right? Film is making a comeback.
Absolutely, we are. By virtue of our ability to do a technical inspection on film cameras, I don't have I can't prove it, but I suspect we're the largest buyer and seller of film cameras in the world.
Wow. And what's your favorite camera? Do you have a brand or?
Oh, I'm not allowed to say.
You're not allowed to say that. No, that gets you in trouble.
It does. I actually have a lot.
You love them all.
I do. The greatest part about working at KEH is that I allow the team to check anything out of inventory and play with it. So we get to test all of the, and it's just fun. So people will check out, if they're going to, do birding, they'll check out a long lens. If they're going to go do, something like
action shots or sports or whatever.
Or they'll get a compact camera to take with them, on a trip. Yeah. And it's just fun because, more than half the company is active photographers.
Oh, that's interesting. So they find this intersection. Right?
We are truly a company by photographers for photographers.
Well, let's leave it there. That's a great way to leave it. John, thanks for joining me on the podcast here in the Stream Commerce podcast studios. A real pleasure to meet you, and I wish you continued success and looking forward to watching and see what happens.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you like this podcast, you can follow us on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Google, the Amazon Podcast channel, or your favorite podcast platform. Please rate and review with a 5-star rating, and be sure and recommend us to a friend or colleague in the retail and cross-border commerce industry. You can learn more about the Global E-commerce Leaders Forum and continue to keep up with the latest on cross-border commerce online at globalecommerceleadersforum.com. Be sure and block off your calendar for the next Scalp event in New York City, October 12th, 2023. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, strategic retail advisor, keynote speaker, and podcaster, and you can learn more about me on LinkedIn. Safe travels, everyone.